Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber to better understand their audience and turn them into loyal customers. Every week, Danny Wolf has brutally honest conversations with busy tech buyers about what really motivates them. You owe it to the world to unmute your mic. Are you ready?
All right, welcome to another episode of Audience First. I'm Danny Wolf, your host, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Dheeraj Pandey. Dheeraj, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yeah, it's Pandey, but quite
Pandey.
close.
Okay, Pandey.
Yeah.
Dheeraj, it's nice to have you here finally. I know it took us a couple tries to get scheduled, but we're finally face-to-face.
Great to meet you, and looking forward to this conversation tonight.
Cool, awesome. So, Dheeraj, tell me, who are you, what do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
So I am basically a CISO. I would say that, I was at the right place at the right time. I have had a career in investment banking, so I've worked with a lot of investment banks before. I got into security in my previous role, and fortunately, when I joined my current organization, there was a CISO role which is open and which was needed by the regulator to be a separate role from the current role, which was being double-hatted. So I got that opportunity, and and I became a CISO, and I had to clear my exams, and in the next couple of years, be completely up to speed with all my peers in the industry. So for me, it was a fast-paced thing, and I of course loved the thrill of it. It was a very challenging phase for me, but I think I did well, and currently I think I've set up quite a good number of practices within my current organization, and we are at par with how the industry is and how other organizations are in the domain that I work in.
What would you say that you hate most about the industry ever since you've phased into it?
I think one of the major challenges that organizations, and the reason I speak about this is because cybersecurity can vary a lot from organization to organization. Some organizations, which are specifically, if we talk about a country like India, organizations which are not head office, whose head offices are not in India, will face this challenge a lot because they don't really have a lot of decision making capability locally, and staffing becomes an immediate challenge. There's so much to do because there is so much. The threat landscape is continuously evolving. You have to improve the security, and there's a lot of pressure from the project standpoint to deliver, upgrade the security, upgrade our security tools and softwares, and also do more pen tests, application security tests, regulator following up, report to the board, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of catching up to do, but the staffing is a big challenge. The other challenge, and the other thing which I think, challenge of something which I don't really like, is the fact that I think the industry is a bit nascent, and I can probably talk more about this from an India standpoint, because a lot of people in security are self-taught, and they are in security because they have a deep interest in it. But if you look at the demand in the industry, the demand is huge. So, and if you compare it with other areas like software engineering or application development, there is a proper pedagogy, there's proper qualitative education, and training infrastructure which is present, because of which good quality people are coming out, and it's not a hit and miss when you're trying to look at resources, when you're trying to hire, because you can even hire freshers or people who are just out of college, etc. So that, and can train them. So that is something which I think is missing, especially in India. There is a lack of quality education in the cybersecurity area, and of course, staffing challenges, I would say, are a real pain, and that's something which I hate.
As a CISO right now, what would you identified several challenges, but what would you identify as your one bleeding neck challenge?
I think the what I was talking about, something that I hate, is that we have so much to do, and we have very little resources to execute it because you know if you know about regulators, you know that specific industries like banking, healthcare, the regulation is very very strict, and we have very less leeway in terms of what is coming through at us. um, Especially if you are I would say a smaller setup, it's even more challenging because you have then your setup regional setup centralized in region or head offices, versus when you have these regulations coming in, they look at it from a very wide angle. And let me give an example. So if a regulator writes something, they would write it from the perspective of a retail bank. Now if you are into pure corporate or commercial banking, the scope of the regulation for you is very limited, but the lens does not change from a regulatory standpoint. So for us, these regulations are like books. We have to go through them. They come. It keeps on evolving every couple of years. We get new requirements, and these are huge. And for us, it's a bit of a catch situation because we don't know what is applicable because it's written in a very very, I would say, broad sense. It's not very pointed. So we have to kind of assign its meaning for us and then fight with various internal teams, etc., to come to a point where not fight, basically discuss it with a lot of internal teams to say that okay, this is the meaning and this is what we will do it. So for us to find out the scope of circuit of the regulations which come in, to find out which applications are in scope, what to exclude, what to include, it becomes a bit of a long haul for us. And because of this and the kind of multiple layers of defense and regulatory requirements and reporting that has been put, the already we are already behind. When a hacker has only one job, he has to hack, right? They don't have to report. We have to report. We have to we have to maintain KPIs, KRIs, and a lot of different stuff, processes, documents, policies, which a hacker doesn't have to. So we are already on the back foot, and so it's a continuous chase that we are in. So that is something which can only be tackled through a couple of things. One is more qualitative discussion and involvement in the evolution of the regulation vis-a-vis different sectors and different geographies, and of course the sensitization towards security at the highest level has to be done more actively so that the threats are met with adequate resources to mitigate them. Otherwise, we are on the back foot and we are praying that we don't get hacked. And in case what, in whichever way the hack happens and at whatever phase we recognize that it has happened, we are not prepared. We are not prepared when the perimeter is breached. We are not prepared to respond to it. So we are not prepared across the line of defense that we have if something like that happens. So we need qualitative time to improve, and we need qualitative time to and resources to look at uh, um, um, where our gaps are and how can we evolve them um, ourselves rather than running around running behind on all of this reporting area, which is, of course, I would not say that it's not necessary. It is indeed a good mechanism, a process and a governance mechanism to have in place, but it does creates a need for time and resources, which uh, unfortunately in the industry, I would say not everyone has. Only maybe a couple of organizations would have, but a large number of organizations don't have it.
Are there any tools right now that you're utilizing to alleviate that challenge in the meantime, apart
So
from qualitative? Yeah.
yeah, so there are. I mean, we are trying to automate a lot of things that we do. We are
Mm.
trying to set up internal processes in a way that whatever resources we can salvage, we can utilize them to kind of offload this reporting and process management tasks for us to for it to give way to a more qualitative perimeter management and doing things like actually simulating a scenario wherein an attack has happened, and how much time are we taking to respond to that attack. To doing such kind of simulations is something that I think are very, very much necessary, because large organizations have a lot of infrastructure. The holes can be anywhere. So for us to simulate something is of paramount importance, but we are not able to kind of give qualitative time on that. So we are the way that we are managing it is we are trying to get some resources to kind of offload the operational day to day and reporting tasks, and then kind of managing these aspects of improving our resiliency.
Take me back to the day when you first decided to evaluate a new security solution to solve your challenge. Tell
Yes,
me what
so
happened.
yes, so let me give you an example of how we approach it, and again, it has to come from the aspect of this setup which I was explaining to you about. So any entity, so like I'm in a bank which has a local entity, but it is the security teams are centralized in region and in our head office. So the tools and the overall global security roadmap is something which we are a part of, but the decision making is centralized in the region and in our head office. So we are typically not we are we have a say in it, but we are not part of the deployment of it. So we don't evaluate vendors for finding out, typically evaluate vendors, and this is true for all foreign entities which have their offices elsewhere while they are centralized in a specific location. The decision making is top down. So, and I'm at the I'm a CISO for one of the geographical entities. So for me also this top down approach is something that is followed. So what we typically do is we look for security vendors, and I can tell you tell you how do we go about it. And because we need to conduct a lot of local tests like penetration tests and application security tests, etc. And what we do is that uh, as a practice that is followed here in India at least, is that we ask for referrals and from our networks, and or we look at some organizations which have a good reputation, uh, typically who have worked with organizations like ours in another geographies, or with similar setups, and we look for direct proof of concept with them. So if they have, for example, in India, data localization was a big thing, right? You need to. There was an incident which happened, I think, a couple of years back, because of which there was a breach, and the data was not able to be brought back to India because the data was not in India. So the regulation has evolved for banks to have all of the payment data, end-to-end payment data in India, so that in case there is an event which happens, the entire chain of events can be can be established. So so we when we were looking for a security vendor to conduct this audit and find out how we can implement this regulation for us, we went ahead and we asked in our local CISO networks. And this is something which, as I said, I've seen quite extensively. People would post in the CISO networks, and that's how. And this is true even for products and softwares. People ask for referrals, and basis the feedback that is given, uh, the people who are chosen is basis this referral at large. It's something that which I see very extensively. And then we also look at, if we are looking for example, as I said, payment data localization was one aspect, and if vendors were well aware about that, we used to get messages on LinkedIn, etc. And if we would found someone suitable, we would basis their messaging, invite them for a debrief, and then we would select a couple of vendors basis their experience, pricing, and similar nature of work which they have done for a different bank. We would select them on competence, experience, and budget. We do continuously evaluate. So, for example, we evaluate for forensics, for setting up a forensics preparedness. We evaluate vendors for that. So it's not before or after, we continuously do basis the need and basis our own internal risk management framework. Whatever new risks are coming up, we are continuously looking at vendors for either regulations or basis the internal framework that we have. So I give you example of penetration test, application security test. So we get vendors for that, and then also regulation based and like as I was explaining to you, we would want to do a test when we are simulating the attack and looking at least from a process standpoint, when do a forensic vendor comes in, what does he do, etc., etc. So all of this is something which we are in the current time trying to implement within the organization that I work for.
Are there any differences or anomalies right now in the Indian market that vendors can take advantage of or learn from?
Yes, one thing which I clearly see is which kind of stands out for me is the fact that I see uh, people are not interacting genuinely. Uh, they generally have a sales mindset. So uh, every time a vendor comes through the door, what they are looking for us is what they are looking at is just a closure of a deal. And for me, I can see that pressure on them because it's a competitive field. Everybody wants to get a project and with a reputed organization. So instead of asking us problems, they are saying yes. Sometimes vendors say yes to anything that we are asking them to, and that comes out very clearly. And after the service happens, and after a project is delivered or an ongoing basis when we are receiving services, feedback is something which is missing, which I think vendors can take advantage of. Vendors should take advantage of, because either you are using product as a service, or if you're using a service in security, there it has to be backed by a proper service. And the service mindset is something which I think is missing at large in the in the security space. It's very much there. If you would look at other areas like software development, or teams which are doing application development as a service. But in security, I don't see vendors going ahead and taking feedback, or having that mindset of service. And if a vendor, for example, one of the vendors that we were working with, they did it, and that is something which really stood out for me. And I really appreciated them genuinely talking to me, and instead of trying to sell, trying to understand what are the areas that we are working on, and is there some way in which they can support us, and having frequent um, service evaluation calls, or a catch up calls with us, so that they can serve us better. So this is something which I think is missing in the industry, and I think the industry is moving in the direction, but currently a lot of this mindset of service security, service based mindset is missing in security firms which are offering security as a service.
That's an interesting point. And I generally strongly agree with you. I just want to drill down into that a little bit more, because I want to know why you think that there isn't enough service based or service mindset in security.
I think it has to do with maturity of the a maturity of the industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I can I mean, and then it can differ from geography to geography. There are a lot of nuances, but it's difficult to paint it with a single brush. But what I can definitely say is that in India, it's a bit nascent. A
Mm.
lot of small organizations have come into the foray. Meaning example, if I'm a security guy, right, I have experience in security. I see that there's a lot of demand in the market, right? There's a gap. There's a lot of demand. So I start out on my own, and because of course I don't have the resources to pump into marketing, I hire someone to do marketing and sales, who probably has very little experience of marketing and sales, and it may be because of budget constraints. So it ends up uh, like that. So a lot of organizations coming up with very little experience can be one contributing factor to it. And as I said, because the market is a bit nascent, I think because we go to industry forums and we talk about these things. So with the feedback that we are giving extensively to vendors, this aspect will definitely come, because you cannot organizations would evolve to compete at the highest level. Otherwise, organizations which are not customer focused or don't have this mindset in the long run will perish. So I think with time it will come, and as the market matures, all of these small firms which are kind of right there would either mature or perish, or get merged into a bigger firm or something like that. Uh, uh, but yeah, I think this definitely is a pain point for me, because I've received service in the past, and it's just that it happens like clockwork. It happens, and we don't get to we except one or two vendors. We never got to interact with them, and project is done. We go to the next year and we again do the project.
Why is this service mindset and this approach important for you?
This is important for me because as I mentioned that for a cybersecurity, somebody who's a CISO, right? It is important that we are continuously evaluating vendors. So uh, for me to run to 10 different places, and every time I have a new requirement going out in the market, because if I'm kind of if I don't have a very good rapport with the existing vendors which I have, I would probably go out and ask about something in the market. And if I have a good rapport with the vendors that I have, I would probably know that, because we'll have a constructive discussion, right? They will ask me about my problems. I will tell them. They will tell me about the solutions. So whenever I have a new requirement, I will not again go to the drawing board and look for vendors and send out an RFP in the market and ask for XYZ. So that's why it's important. It's beneficial for me, and it's very beneficial for them as well. Um, so that's why it's important.
Yeah, I always claim and I always state to my audience, to the followers and in other podcasts that I speak on, that it has to be a bidirectional relationship. It has to be value driven on both sides for sure.
Right,
So I
right.
appreciate that. Thank you. I want to ask, and it's storytelling time. This is where I open up the door to the shit list. What's the worst thing that you've experienced from a vendor?
I think I experience it a lot every day on
Oh
LinkedIn.
no.
On LinkedIn, on my emails. I don't know
Yeah.
where these people get my email from, but okay, I mean it's easy to get. I know. Um, I get so many messages on LinkedIn, and these messages are uh, direct sales, direct sales. And
Yeah.
I think the example which I was telling you about, smaller organizations hiring someone to do their work, and somebody who doesn't have an experience in marketing and sales but knows that LinkedIn is a tool. They go and search, they buy a Sales Navigator subscription, they go and search for CISO as the keyword, and whatever comes up, they have a message which they send out. So the issue is that if 100 people or 500 people do this, it kind of, dilutes the value that LinkedIn, or any other tool, LinkedIn, I'm using it, LinkedIn as an example, or any other sales or marketing tool has. Because for me, if I'm bombarded so much, I basically stop checking my messages. And what happens in that case is good vendors, I may be missing good vendors, but I don't have the time to go through 20, 30 messages that I get every day. And sometimes what happens is that somebody has messaged me and he's copy pasting the same messages 10 times to me on LinkedIn. So it's that is something which kind of puts me off a little bit when it comes to the sales based. I mean, whenever we're talking about vendors, we can talk about different aspects, right? So I'm talking more from a sales perspective. That's something which puts me off from a sales perspective. I would expect a vendor to to be one to be to do proper research, right? For example, uh, if you're targeting, so who is your target, right? Who is your target and what are their pain points? So if you have a solution which is more catered towards the Indian market, that doesn't mean that every CISO who is in the Indian market is a potential for you. What it means is that maybe Indian banks or organizations with head offices in India are a proper, are a proper target audience for you. And organizations who are foreign based but have offices in India are not a target for you, because the nature of operations is very different and the decision making is very different. The structure is very different. So so bombarding us will get you nowhere. So to find out who your target audience is, find out their pain points, find out who are the decision makers, and after you find all of these things, do proper engagement and then take the conversation further, rather than sending out direct messages and filling up the inboxes. I think because of the everybody knows that I come back to LinkedIn. Everybody knows that LinkedIn is a great tool, so it's being used with no knowledge, and because of which I think its utility is kind of getting diluted. At least it happens for me. I don't check my messages too often on LinkedIn. Only, I mean, a couple of people I know and I interact with, I would go on LinkedIn and talk to. But from vendors, if I see a sales message, I immediately don't, open that message, or I don't act on it.
What sparked you to approve my message? What was different?
I think your message, I don't remember how we started to interact. I think it was me. It was actually me who messaged you, because I heard one of your podcasts, and I really liked, because it came out fresh to me, right? As I was telling you, right, it's a two-way thing. It's value driven both sides. You said it's value driven both sides, right? So when I see value, when you see value, you hear a good conversation, a genuine conversation, non-salesy stuff. You kind of want to learn and listen more about it. So I think I messaged you saying that if you are open for a podcast, I would like to speak about something. So and then from there our conversation started. So see it. Imagine if you were a salesperson doing a podcast, which you've become now. How beneficial it is for you that somebody you're getting an inbound inquiry rather than you going outbound helter skelter in all directions, and not getting a qualitative read. Okay, you may get messages from 10 people, but it may or may not be meaning anything, because you're not targeting the right set of audience. So I think
There,
all of this is very, very available in the market, and with a little bit of intelligence, you can Google stuff up and find this out. But currently, it's not happening in the industry
I
much.
love I love that you mention figure out who your target audience is. That is super critical. And the way that I've done it was taking a look at the revenue data, taking a look at who are the top high value customers that are bringing in the revenue, and taking a look at the profiles there, so that I can develop the ideal customer and take a look at that list of job roles, job titles, and functions. Go build an ideal customer profile, look through LinkedIn to identify who fits those profiles within the verticals and within the function, and then start doing that qualitative data research, right? The customer research and that the buyer research. Super critical. And you are right. It was you who reached out and connected, which is super awesome. I see here in the message that you're interested in demand gen and a CISO. So that's interesting that you're interested in demand gen. I commend you.
Actually, because I've been following up demand gen podcasts. I on LinkedIn. I listen to it. Marketing used to be an area of interest for me, and as we've been discussing, for me, the way a customer is being educated is not right.
Mm-hmm.
I would say people are not valuing the aspect which needs to happen at the top of the funnel.
Mm.
That is educating your customer. So for you educating your customer, you need to find out who your customer is, right? You don't know who your customer is. You've not done the work to do the research on your customer profile, finding out the pain points, and then mapping their job roles, finding out what's your exclusion list is on LinkedIn, etc. And targeting those specific audiences, those specific revenue sizes, locations, in nature of industry, job titles, and then a very, very razor sharp, building a very razor sharp list based on what you exactly do. And then with a very good approach, engagement based approach, reaching out to them. Uh, uh, and of course, if somebody has a problem, if you know them, you know they have a problem, you have a solution, you have a good approach to reach out, it's a match. So the sales will work out. But very few vendors or people are doing this in the market right
Look at that. The CISO is schooling the marketer. I love it. I love it. I could listen to this all day. You make a very compelling case here, right? Top of funnel education. What resonates with you as a security practitioner in terms of education? One, from a topical standpoint, we'll split this question into two. One from a topical standpoint, and two from a asset or media type standpoint.
now. Okay. So I can, from a media standpoint, I think uh, podcasts are a definite, uh, are a definite yes for me. The second thing which I look forward to is industry conferences, which are very topical again. Again, as I said, like on LinkedIn, I get 10 calls every day inviting me for different things which I am completely unrelated to, but they are somewhere tangenting on the security perimeter, and because of which I get a call. So yeah, but industry forums uh, very important, especially if I get them from vendors who know that this is an area of concern for me. I love to attend that because it's a lot of good information and discussion on that, zeroed in on that topic. So for me, it's very important. Other than that, if I get topical, it's a mix of again topic and media basis. Is if I get white papers and ebooks on the evolving landscape on security, for example, cloud security, uh, application security, or the way the threat management is done, or the way security operations are being run. Exact. I'm just giving examples. I would love to dig in on that and read it a little bit. So I think these are a couple of things which I kind of look forward to. So for example, if I do a post, or if I see a post wherein somebody is talking about this, I would go and like it. And for somebody who's posting it, if he sees that a CISO is liking it, probably reaches out to me saying that you've liked or commented on this. We have this free ebook on this. Would you be interested? And of course, I'm interested in. And from there, the conversation flows. Again, if I'm hearing a podcast, I reached out to you. And I'm working with my existing vendors. They call me for an industry event on a specific topic. It's an area of interest for me. If I need a vendor, if I need a service on that, they are the ones who I go to. So these are the things which I think are. So it's all education based. There's nobody selling anything to me. Nobody has sold me anything, right? They are offering. Somebody's offering me a free ebook. Somebody is offering me a very good qualitative content over a podcast, and somebody is inviting me for me to learn what is it that they are doing and how probably it can help me. So education. It's the key. The sales happens automatically after that.
I'm going to dig deeper because it's a good answer. I'm not satisfied. I'll tell you why. Because I've written and I've produced a lot of educational content, and that to me it sounds and feels still like a very general topic, and so I want to get more specific, right?
Sure.
So tell me what about cloud security or application security? What specific topics resonate with you that educate you and teach you something new? Because there are so many state of the cloud security landscape. There's so many of those ebooks and white papers out there. But what in your eyes would stand out and really pop out in the sea of marketing material on LinkedIn and on Google search and on vendor websites?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. I would say it kind of depends on, uh, uh, so again, it depends on your customer research itself, because,
Yeah.
if you know uh, that, for example, the regulation in that space, and unfortunately, as I said before, the the evolution is also regulatory dependent, in a lot of cases, whether we like it or not. But uh, so if I'll go back to the example of the payment data localization, which I was speaking to you about. So if you're a vendor and you know that the industry needs this solution, if you it, so it has to be timing based, of course, and it has to be or a threat vector based, that which is currently going on, and a CISO would be interested in it. Uh, um, and of course, more in general, regulation based as well. So based on these factors, if I get something, I would definitely want to want to get a copy of it, or want to hear more about it.
Got it. So to reiterate and just to reinforce here, that customer research and the validation is critical to informing your content strategy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
The more deeper you are in knowing your customer and knowing what's going on in the market, in the customer, I mean, the segments that you service, uh, will lead you much more work than bombarding people randomly on LinkedIn this or anywhere else, or on their emails, etc. Which is, and it's really, I'm really happy that we are talking about this here, because I don't know which organizations, except the really big ones, dwell into demand gen. At least I have not really seen it happen. Maybe only top 2-3% of the vendors may be doing it, but there's a lot of scope. A lot of good vendors and service providers are there in the industry. Just the approach has to be modulated, uh, and, uh, and then the industry will evolve, and I think it will people will get more value and more closure. I mean, closer matches to the requirements on both sides.
Okay. Well, we're heading towards the end of the session. I do want to know, before we sign off, is there anything you want to impart on the audience?
Yes, I think one of the things which which I have been speaking about quite a lot in this podcast, at least, is that if you're if you're a security vendor listening to it, or somebody who is in that chain, uh, constructively engaging with, firstly knowing your target audience, and then constructively engaging with them, is the way to go about, because of course the cybersecurity leadership needs it, and we are not in that phase, or we were in the phase that we can kind of uh, deal with so much of bombardment on to us, because we are a CISO, and you find it, and we kind of get bombarded by it. So so go ahead with a good approach, and I think you more and more vendors will definitely get a chance to speak to the buying committee, or the CISOs, or the CIOs of various organizations.
Got it. I love it. This has been an absolute pleasure, Dheeraj. And as always, you're more than welcome to return to the show and provide us your valuable insights. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. It was a great conversation. I loved it, and pleasure to be on the show again sometime.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.